Resident Evil.
Hello guys, what is up? Survive Kabaz here, back again with another Resident Evil video. Now before the reaction to Resident Evil 3's remake trailer, it's been since February since I last talked about Resident Evil. So just like Resident Evil 2, I'll be doing a top 10 things I want in Remake. First thing I want in Remake is of course alternate paths and choices. In Resident Evil 3, you had quick time events of live choice making, and either it being fighting Nemesis in the RPD or electrocuting zombies' brains and making them explode. This system was very effective at making the game unique compared to Resident Evil 1 and 2, as in both games we only had to choose between two characters, aka Jill and Chris or Claire and Leon. But in Resident Evil 3, we had choices to give us different paths and even two different endings. I want us to be able to have a system similar to Shadow the Hedgehog of all games. In that game, you can be pure evil, pure good, or neutral. In Resident Evil 3's case, we could have Jill performing things that would be considered cold-blooded for her last escape, or actually try to help the city escape. We would still have the canon story, which is why the storyboard point would be excellent. Examples of both equaling neutral is like helping out a group of survivors and then later on that point also killing Nikolai before he shows his true self would be the cold-blooded dark side of the story. I just want this system because it would be very, very, very unique, and it's not just one way evil, one way good. Of course, we would be able to do the alternate paths like, oh, you made this choice or you made that choice. Basically like Until Dawn. I want other modes to be heavily expanded on. It's a shame not to experience what Carlos and the other members like Mikhail went through. I mean, you're talking about people who were sent in to rescue survivors, and it would be really cool if Carlos had more of segments, kind of like what Sherry and Ada have, but way longer. I also want to see Brad Vickers return as his own game mode before Jill meets up with him like the original. As I said before, rescuing survivors could be a goal, especially for Carlos, as that was, quote, was sent in to do, end quote. This would be really cool and honestly would show true colors of both men. Of course, third on my wish list is more depth on the city and the characters themselves. I like the idea of Chief Irons running for mayor in the books, so having political posters and flyers of Irons versus Warren would bring the city to life. Also bring in barricades and quarantine sections to make the city more disastrous and apocalyptic-like. I want to explore the city a whole lot more, as Resident Evil 2 Remake's Claire's section going into the orphanage made me want to explore the entirety of Raccoon City. Dario would also be an interesting take, as he was one of the most depressing characters in Resident Evil 3 original. I just want every character that had a minor role be expanded on like nothing we'd never even thought of before. Now, I do realize that the last part will probably trigger most of you out, but hear me on this. I want references, so basically notes, voice clips, or even stuff that's caused by the other games. I don't want Wolfpack or the Good Soldiers to meet Jill, and I don't even want the Outbreak Gang to see Jill. But clear references would be so cool as a Resident Evil fan. By the way, you absolutely cannot deny that the character designs for Operation Raccoon City are cool as fuck. Now, because of this, I do have a theory on Outbreak that I might talk about in the future. I really do not want the game to be too action heavy. Yes, I know Resident Evil 3 was the first action game in the series, but I don't want it to feel like a run and gun. You have ways to balance out the action to the survival horror, and one of those is by making the dodge usable only once or twice every 5 seconds or so. Don't make an overabundance of handgun ammo, don't do quick time events, and make sure that you capture the horror feel. Now yes, I do know the difference between an action game and a survival horror game with each other's elements. Let me give you an example. Resident Evil 3 is like Fallout 3 and Vegas. Now in both 3 and Vegas, they both are RPGs, but with shooting game elements. Of course, Resident Evil 3 is a survival horror game with action game elements. Resident Evil 4 is like Fallout 4. Of course, shooter action game elements with RPG element. Resident Evil 4 being a action game first with having a bit of survival horror elements. All I want is for Resident Evil 3 to be like the classic game, a balance of everything, a survival horror game but with action elements. So I made it definitely apparent in my Resident Evil video that I was excited to see the deaths in Remake 2 because I wanted him to be brutal. I mean, seriously, I was waiting for something grand to happen to Chief Irons, and
Get off me! Oh my god!
like seriously, I don't get it. How did we not get this spectacle of a death? Like, I'm expecting a lot out of Remake when it comes to deaths, because the brutality of an entire city being ravaged by zombies, tyrants, Nemesis, and other bioweapons would just be absolutely mind-boggling to not being able to see deaths that are very, very gory and brutal. As you all know, or probably don't know, I do have a high appreciation for video game music. If you were to ask me what my top 3 favorite artists are, it'd be Mick Gordon, Trent Reznor, and Akira Yamaoka. Resident Evil 3's save room theme is my favorite theme out of all of the Resident Evil franchise. Now I will admit that I was wrong about Resident Evil 2's music, but I really do care about Resident Evil's music. I mean, if I didn't, I wouldn't go as far as to edit together a 55-minute video and even work on some covers for Resident Evil 2. After listening to the new Feel the Tension, I am very confident as this was a glaring problem in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Take a listen. Honestly, I will keep this one short and sweet, so I'll show you the intro and let you witness the perfection.
This is Chopper Delta, preparing to drop off at area E95070. Over.
What are they?
Waiting orders. Over. All units proceed to Richmond and Victoria. All right.
Let's do it. Let's move. Go, 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 go! Fire! Come and get me! Son of a... They're everywhere! Don't give up! They're too many! Don't hold back! No! Where are they? Where did they come from? Never! It's pointless! Take this! Die! You want some more?
I'll be just straight up honest. I do not like where 3 makes Nemesis redesign. This is not a Resident Evil purist thing or anything. It's just that he looks bad. I really don't like the caution tape around his body because it's really redundant. You're talking about a 7'3" tyrant with tentacles and shit. Why would you ever need caution tapes all around his body? I know it's supposed to reference the old ads, but really we don't need that. I definitely do not like the trash bag that's all over his skin. I do like the original suit a whole lot better. And don't even get me started on the nose. That goddamn nose. I actually did not notice it until my good friend History Behind the Warrior asked if I actually knew that he had a nose. Now that's all I ever see. Now I do not absolutely hate the design. I do like the steel tubing idea if it concerns shooting a point where I get to shoot it off and he'll mutate. I also like the look of the one seeing eye. Just please give me an option to pick between the OG and a redesign of the original. When I say redesign of the original, I mean I always envisioned Nemesis being dirty. Compare this photo to this. The second picture looks like he's been through some shit. I mean, we're talking he's traversed the city for 3 days, broken buildings, jumped all over the place, has taken shots out of him. I mean, I expect this motherfucker to be the most unclean tyrant I have ever seen. Finally, all I ask for is just this game to be great. Resident Evil 3 has always gotten the worst end of the trilogy. Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 1 Remake considered a fucking marvel. Resident Evil 2 is always the quote-unquote perfect sequel, and 3 is just a meh side game that just ends the trilogy. It saddened me that yes, though in the past I have always considered 2 to be my favorite, it's honestly always been 3. Just the characters, the choices, the costumes, the Nemesis, the environment, everything just made Resident Evil 3 so unique from the franchise of what we've played with 1 and 2. Resident Evil 3 deserves as much credit as Resident Evil 2, and that's what I want them to do in Remake. Make Resident Evil 3 feel unique again. OG RE3 gave us so much to play around with, and honestly, this game is looking to be one of the best Resident Evils in the franchise. I want to thank you all for watching today's video. I know I haven't made an actual video in a while, but I did get a better position at my job, and I've been preoccupied with other things like planning to move out and shit. I am planning a new Survive Talks about, of all things, Resident Evil 3 Remake. And I do want to talk about theories and of course the stuff we do want in Remake. I will have the guest star Distant Memories 1996 returning back into the podcast light. I'm so excited for my new streaming schedule that I will be implementing in about 2 weeks. It is up on Twitch if you would like to see it. The link is in the description below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. And I do want to thank you all again for watching. Goodbye, my fellow survivors.